Today on Taste Texas, we're serving up steak and salad. And not just any steak and salad. Wait till you see what Chef Garth does with Texas pecans and goat cheese to really chef it up. And we're taking a visit to East Texas to learn all about heritage cattle.
It's the original cow that was brought here.
So pull up a chair and join us at the table.
Glad to have y'all here today. I'm Amy Kushner. There went the oil.
And I'm Chef Garth Blackburn.
Yeah, we're off to a great start.
We are. That's about what I expect when you're in the kitchen with me. Always some fun.
We're a little rusty. We've had a little time off, and so now we're getting back into the kitchen. In this episode, we're going to make something appropriate for the new year. Protein and veggies.
Chef's version of a healthy meal, which is a nice big steak, and then we're gonna make it a little bit healthier with some salad. But you're also gonna learn why the steak that we're cooking is actually gonna be part of your New Year's resolution if you're trying to eat a little bit healthier. What you guys are gonna get to try today is really, it's something that is near and dear to my heart because it's grass-fed beef, and we get to talk to the farmer, and we'll get into more of that later. But just it's great to be able to eat tasty food as part of a healthy sort of new start to the year.
That's right. And if you're like me, trying to cut out carbs, this episode is for you. So let's get cooking.
This one's carb-free. Okay, we're gonna start with some tomatoes. So these are Amelia's Farm tomatoes, which we got to visit a few weeks ago, and Ben and Amelia do a great job. Incredible tomatoes. The reason you can find these beautiful red ones in the middle of the winter is that they are hydroponically grown in a greenhouse. So that's why they look so pretty.
Yes.
So why don't you cut those into quarters for me?
Okay.
So we're going to grill these for our tomato vinaigrette.
Yes. You good with that?
I am.
All right.
And see, these are red on the inside as well, which is a key. If y'all are going to the grocery store now, you're probably seeing some tomatoes that look red on the outside, but they're really white in the center.
Or they're mushy in the center, which
means they've probably been refrigerated. So don't ever ruin any of Ben and Amelia's tomatoes by refrigerating them.
Or any tomato, for that fact. Save the tomatoes.
Save the tomatoes. So let's start putting these on the grill. If y'all don't have a grill fired up at home, you could instead use your broiler.
Okay.
And you know my favorite thing for sheet trays, right? What do I put on my sheet tray?
Line them with parchment paper and foil.
Don't do the parchment paper when you're doing broiling, unless you want to really get a roasted taste from the parchment paper catching on fire.
Sounds like common sense, but you know, if you're like me and you knock over oil and you do silly things in the kitchen, then you need to know that.
You never know. And this is some ooh la la or la-di-da-da out of Dallas, Texas, some goat cheese. Delicious stuff, a little tangy. I think you guys will be impressed with it. It's available at a lot of local grocery stores. And we're gonna shape these. Why don't you grab one?
Okay.
So we're gonna use half of this medallion to make one smaller medallion. So just take this. Make sure it's been refrigerated. Don't leave it sitting out.
That's what I said.
Did you?
Did you not hear me?
Wow, apparently I didn't when I was turned around and you were swiping my sheet tray.
I said, don't let it sit out or it's going to get really soft. Yeah, see, look at the heads.
We're starting to even out from a couple weeks ago then, right?
All right.
All right, so make your perfect little medallion. I'm teaching the chef a thing or two, right?
I try, Garth, I try.
I would have you do more than one, but I don't want too much cheese on your fingers after that last incident with the pasta.
Those that were here know. Okay, that's good.
Okay, and now we're going to freeze these. They really need to be frozen, otherwise we're not going to be able to crust them because we're getting ready to crust them with some of the Gilbert pecans, so some Texas pecans.
That sounds
so we need to put these
really
into the freezer.
Okay.
And if you'll flip those tomatoes for me, Amy.
I will. I will.
I don't want to cook these. I just want to get them nice and charred, a little bit of smoke flavor. That's the reason I'm a fan of the grill for this rather than just doing the broiler, where you might toast it a little bit, but you're not going to get as much caramelization. Also, if y'all are not too crazy about the acidity of tomatoes, like I know for you for marinara sauce, for example, that it's really acidic. If you char the skin side for a good several minutes, then you can peel the skin off, and that's where a lot of acidity is. We talked about that in one of the other meals, and I really think that's a key to kind of getting started. So
sounds delicious.
Right, so we've got those charring. We're gonna get ready now for the breading station, and that's gonna be your pecans.
Do you need this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Why don't you crack those eggs open for me?
Mm-hmm. Do you have a paper towel? Because I would prefer a paper towel.
Whatever you want, sous chef.
So you gotta let me have my space here a little bit. Okay.
And these are some farm eggs. So the farm eggs are going to be a variety of different colors. What's really interesting in this is that farm eggs don't have to be brown. Everybody thinks that it's just the breed of the chicken. So, but the problem is when y'all go shopping, if they're not brown, you just think that they're not farm fresh eggs. All right,
Looky there, no shells.
We're going to whisk those. That's going to get us ready for the goat cheese breading station. We're going to finish charring the tomatoes, and then we come back. We're going to grill up some steak.
Oh, this sounds delicious. A perfect healthy meal for the new year. Stay with us. We'll be right back. So if you're looking for a great, healthy recipe that might help you keep on your New Year's diet, we're moving on with a wonderful steak and salad recipe. Garth's already got some beautiful tomatoes that he's charring over here on the grill.
I'm just pulling those skins off, remove that bitterness. We got all the smoke flavor. And while I finish that up, we're gonna go take a little farm visit.
Right, we want you to take a look at a wonderful farm we just recently visited out in East Texas called Falster Farm. Take a look.
Slow, slow. Wait a minute. What you see is some solid red cows in here. These red cows are called red poles, and the ones with the white faces are Herefords. And this one right here with a little strip across his forehead is a miniature Jersey. Our market changed from the seed stock business with the drought. You know, it did a great deal of damage to the national herd in general, and people just quit buying seed stock. You couldn't afford to buy hay to keep them. So one of the benefits of having this smaller size cow is it does not eat as much. So I was able to retain my herd while my neighbors all sold off. But I didn't have to sell any of my smaller cows because they eat about a third of what those big cows eat. In fact, Texas A&M some years ago did a study. They found that you can take, we call it the stocking rate. If your land will carry 1 cow per acre, you can carry 2 of mine. That cow that you eat will eat 15% more than my 2 will eat. And when it goes to slaughter, my 2 will produce 20% more than that one.
It's a pretty high yield.
What the difference is the amount of pelt and bone that's in that bigger cow. And that big cow, in order to put on fat, which is what we're looking for, as you know as a chef, you've got to have inputs of grain.
Right.
Not with my cows. My cows marble on grass.
What's the story in the miniatures, though, just real quick? I mean, were they, is it a recessive gene, or was
it's the original cow that was brought here.
That's the original, okay. So it wasn't that they suddenly found a miniature that's a recessive, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So the big cows that we have today are the new breed. Our cows is the old breed.
All right, let's go grill up some ribeyes.
So fun. I love visiting all these farms, especially this one. And my favorite, of course, was Willie. I mean, who could not fall in love with little Willie?
Little Willie was quite cute. And all the cattle and the pigs. And we had such a fun time, too. We got pulled in afterwards and got to enjoy really catching up with them and hearing some awesome stories. And what a great family.
True Texas hospitality. So
all right,
we have some product here.
This is kind of the contradiction to Texas thoughts and cuisine and adjectives, because everybody thinks everything's bigger in Texas. And if I look at this, I'm not thinking ribeye. That looks like a pretty petite little steak, but it's because it came from one of those clover finished cows that we found out actually, while they're called miniature, in fact, they're not.
No, not at all.
They're the original size from hundreds of years ago.
When they came over from Europe or wherever that was.
Right.
That's the size that they came as, and as we've grown them and raised them in Texas, which is bigger and better, they've gotten bigger. But these are delicious, and you know, I fall in love with the animals, so I have a hard time, like, you know, dividing that line between this precious furry face on the farm and then
and then yum.
That's why they were scared of Garth.
They were running from me. All right, so this is grass-fed clover finish, which is really good, really healthy for you.
Yes.
But the one thing that you need to keep in mind is that grass-fed beef is going to cook very quickly.
Yeah.
So typically the approach that I use is a high heat sear and then we finish in the oven. These being so thin and these being grass-fed, I'm gonna get a high heat sear on each side, and that's gonna be about enough to get them through to a perfect medium rare, which is definitely my preference.
I follow you. All right. So
All right.
you'll just put those back on.
So I let these sit out at room temp just for about 20 minutes or so, not the typical hour, which is going to let them really get too warm. So by the time you sear the outside, they're going to be overcooked in the center. So I'm just going to lay that down. And you remember my approach on this, right?
I love how lean they look too.
They do.
So lean.
That you're never supposed to push on steaks or burgers. I bring this up all the time. People have trouble understanding why you're okay to do that initially. Is that I want to make sure that steak is touching the grill great. And I'm not pushing out juices because the steak's still pretty cool to the touch.
Okay. And you're going to get those pretty grill marks on there as well.
I am. So about a 1600 degree grill at home, you know, about 700 plus will be the minimum that y'all want for the inside of your grill cavity in order to get that high heat sear. Okay. If not, if your grill isn't hot enough, you don't have a Wolf grill yet, then you can just use a pan, like a cast iron skillet, get it as hot as it can get, and then right before you sear it, put the high heat oil, like grapeseed or canola or vegetable oil, and then immediately put the steak down.
Awesome. All right, so after we get this steak going, what are we going to move on to next?
Next, we're going to finish up that tomato vinaigrette. We're going to crust the goat cheese. And in fact, for right now, why don't I have you start cutting the skin off the outside.
You always give me the chopping. What
well, this time I'm standing a long ways away because I know how you talk with your hands.
What did you want me to do?
You're going to cut the skin off, so you'll cut off the bottom and the top, and then start cutting down the sides.
Oh, I follow you. Okay. Well, this might take a little while, so I guess we're going to go to a quick break.
That's why I timed it right now.
Perfect. A commercial break, and then come back. We'll have more for you then. I cannot wait to finish this up. But what are we doing now?
We're finishing off the char and the steaks. So we've got the nice cross hatch marks, which basically just turn it 90 degrees. So first couple of times y'all tried, I'm sure you've had the reality that your geometry is not quite as good as it used to be. But you know, I don't know, 8th grade comes back real fast. I usually do it at an angle. That's going to kind of elongate the look of the meat rather than just having it be everything symmetrical and squared off. So if you do it at an angle like this, it's also easier. So if I have it aiming this way to the right, I'm then going to pick it up and aim it that same angle, but to the left.
Okay.
Right, so that'll make it really easy to get those really pretty grill marks. Now we're going to start with those tomatoes. This is going to be our warm vinaigrette.
Right.
So why don't you grab your favorite tool, that stick blender. Put some Texas balsamic vinegar, some red wine vinegar. Quite a bit of that because this is a vinaigrette. This is going to be like a warm salad dressing.
And you've already peeled the skin off the tomatoes. Right,
so it's not going to be quite as bitter or acidic. That's a clove of garlic for a little bit of sweetness. Some Texas honey. I wasn't going to use the crystallized one again where you had to work so hard the last time. All right, and then salt, freshly cracked black pepper, ideally, and then some Texas olive oil. So all of this is available at most grocery stores like Whole Foods and Central Market. So you're just going to puree that?
All right.
All right, that looks great.
All right, you're done.
You're just trying to leave it on. Now we're going to crust that goat cheese.
All righty, let's do it.
Let's get it. So if you will grab those bowls, put them over here. Okay, this is pecan meal. It's basically like flour. in terms of the texture. If you don't have that, you can just grind up your own pecans until they get really fine in texture. So we've got our frozen goat cheese medallions. We're gonna put them into the meal, then into the egg, and then this is a mixture of pecan meal and then just regular chopped pecans. If you're not worried about gluten-free, which this is, if you're not worried about it, you could use flour for this first one, and then for this last, you could use a mixture of panko breadcrumbs and pecans, and then you don't have to worry about chopping anything or finding pecan meal.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do the wet hand, dry hand.
Oh, you're gonna put me to test again. See, this isn't sticking very well.
It doesn't need to stick. It just what you need to do is dry off any of the wet parts. So now you'll dip it in the egg.
So this will be the wet hand. It is now. Okay, then back to.
Now, pull it out, shake off the excess egg.
I have to think slowly on this thing. It's a process.
And if you're laughing at home, you better be an expert at it because it's pretty easy to make that same mistake.
Don't laugh until you've done it yourself. Okay, is this good?
It is.
Oh, this is going to be amazing. Yeah, can I put that back?
And what I love about this recipe is that it's so much easier than trying to sear. Finish it up.
Wet hand, wet dry. Slowly, slowly, it's the new year. I'm still waking up.
Still suffering from New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Is that we're gonna bake it in the oven. We're not gonna sear it in a pan because you'll find it's really difficult once that cheese gets soft to get a spatula underneath it, to get it flipped over and not have it just fall apart. So by baking in the oven, we're gonna do 400 degrees for 5 minutes. That's gonna crisp the outside of it, and the inside's just gonna barely get warmed through. And that's going to be about the perfect amount of time for our beef to rest, about 5 to 8 minutes. And before we cut into it, so we want to keep those juices in.
Okay, I think these are all done.
They are
gorgeous. I cannot wait to taste that.
So look at the timing. The meat's resting. We're just going to slice the grapefruit. We've got the vinaigrette done. We're just going to put these in the oven at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. And we'll be ready to plate it up.
One more break. I'm going to wash these hands, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back to the Sub-Zero Wolf Prep Kitchen for a great 5-minute meal. Today's meal is going to be a pumpkin and Korean chili soup. We're gonna have a little bit of Gulf shrimp and some rice noodles. So we're gonna go ahead and get started back at the range with a little bit of coconut oil, which is gonna provide some additional flavors. Let's get rolling. All right, so we're gonna start off with some unrefined coconut oil. So it's gonna have a little bit of coconut flavor, but the smoke point is gonna be fairly low. So I don't want to get it on high heat. I've got it on a medium heat right now. We're going to add some Texas Pride cremini mushrooms. These are out of Gonzales, Texas. I'll start to saute those mushrooms until I get a little bit of browning. Okay, so I've started to get a little bit of browning on my mushrooms. I'm going to add a delicious Korean chili paste. It's available at both Asian food stores as well as some high-end grocery stores. Add about a tablespoon. And I'm gonna toast that some until it becomes really aromatic. It's smelling delicious. Got some fresh ginger. I don't wanna worry about grating it or cutting it. It's a 5-minute meal. I'm just gonna break it a little bit. I'm gonna put that in, and I'm gonna pull it out later once we add our liquid ingredients. I'm gonna do the same with my lemongrass. This is gonna release some of the essential oils. So we'll put that in to add a little bit of flavor. Now, I've got some coconut milk, and if you prefer, you could use light coconut milk instead. All right. So I'm gonna whisk that in, let those flavors kind of start to meld. Let's stir it a little bit with that lemongrass as well. And now for holiday time period, kind of a mix on Asian and traditional ingredients, I'm gonna use some pumpkin. It's pumpkin puree. About 2 tablespoons. That's gonna add a little bit of sweet component. And to go with the sweet, I like a little bit of sour, so we'll use half of a lime. And as it starts to thicken up, in order to add a little bit more volume and to make sure it's a good thinness, because we're gonna be serving it with some shrimp and some rice noodles, I'll thin it out with about 1 cup of chicken stock. Or you could substitute vegetable stock instead. Just take that up to a boil, and then we're ready to serve it with our rice sticks and our shrimp and our fresh vegetables. So we brought that soup up to a boil. I'm gonna get ready with the rice noodles. These are uncooked rice sticks, but the heat from the soup will actually cook them through in about 3 minutes. Put those down. Some delicious Gulf shrimp. peeled into vein. I just leave the tail on. That's also gonna get cooked with the residual heat from the soup. Got some sugar snap peas, we'll put those on. Got some scallions, some green onion, some Texas snow pea shoots. So you're gonna let that steep. You're gonna have a little bit of shrimp, a little bit of rice noodle, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of spice. Y'all enjoy.
Chef Garth, it's time to plate it up.
Time to plate it up.
Let's do this.
All right, so if you'll do me a favor, if you'll start drizzling this warm salad dressing, and I'm liking to bring this together. So we've got a little bit of warm dressing on the cold salad. We're gonna have a hot steak right next to the cold grapefruit. It's gonna kind of all mix together. So.
Can you make a whole bunch of this dressing ahead of time and just keep it in the fridge?
Yeah, that'll hold easily for 2 to 3 weeks. There's not dairy product in it, so it's gonna hold up really well. So you guys can have a great homemade salad dressing.
Delicious.
If, I'll just go ahead and cut this. I'm gonna cut these into little medallions.
Uh-huh.
This is Texas Rio Star grapefruit.
Yes, which is in season now.
And so if you'll do me a favor, if you'll carefully put the goat cheese on top of each piece of grapefruit.
Oh my goodness. Yum. Can you see how beautiful this presentation is? Oh my goodness, gorgeous. Okay.
I'm cutting this across the grain.
Right. And you're gonna lay it right on that side, I'm guessing.
I am. And the key on any of the grass-fed beef is to go a little bit more rare than what you think you like.
Yeah.
Because it is going to be so lean that otherwise it's going to become very tough.
Okay. Is that gorgeous or what?
So we'll garnish that with.
Of course, you have to have that final look, just a little bit of green to toss on top.
Some green on there, and then some Texas candied pecans.
I'm already looking for a fork or a spoon or anything.
Got a fork and a knife right. You could use a spoon. I'm going to go ahead and go for the steak tasting with the fork and the knife. No, go for it.
All right, thank you. All right, everybody, make sure to let them know where we can get their recipes. They can get our recipes.
Our recipes are available on tastetexastv.com, which is our website. That's also where you can find all of our previous episodes if you want to see some of the other farms and some of the other great ingredients. And then we encourage you to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. A lot of these shots you'll be able to see as they're happening, and we're out in the field and out at the farms. It's really a great opportunity to kind of involve yourself with a lot of great Texas farmers and ranchers and some great Texas cuisine. So what's the verdict? Oh, did I ask a little too soon? The head nod? All right. Well, y'all join us next time. Thanks for tuning in today.
Delicious. Thanks for keeping me carb-free, Garth.
And we'll see y'all next week.
See y'all next time.